asked them, what do you see on this ink blot? And based on their response, they record and they look at particular algorithms and they interpret it and they look at background just the same. And then psychologists are able to decode much of how a person thinks and where their reflexes are based on this ink blot and their interpretation. This was a test that was invented by a well-known psychologist by the name of Rorschach. But Rorschach works more than the sense of seeing. Rorschach also works in the sense of hearing. You can put a song on the radio and one of us can hear the lyrics to the song and think about our dead parent, and it can make us sad. Another person can hear the exact same song and catch the beat and the rhythm and remember that it was playing in the background at the restaurant on their first date with their partner, and it can bring them happiness and satisfaction. Rorschach doesn't only work in ink blots, it works in sound bites as well. And people can sometimes blend the sound and the sight of a particular thing into their own Rorschach test. This is a true story of one time, like I do almost every Shabbat, I stood up at that bima and I started my sermon as I start every single week with the words Shabbat Shalom. And as soon as I said the word Shabbat Shalom, I could see and hear someone in the audience go, my God, he always talks about politics. Because for that person, that's what they see and that's what they hear. All of us have a reflex. We all see an ink blot, we all hear a particular sound, and we have a piece of our history and our memory that is tickled. And I ask all of you, what are you hearing? What emotions are they evoking? What is your response? For many in this room, you're about to hear the shofar for the first time in 13 months. You're about to hear the shofar for the first time of this year of 5785. And as we prepare to blow that shofar, I ask you to dial in to the reflex that is the Rorschach of our ears. We rise, and as you heard the shofar blast for the first time of 5785, ushering this new year, what did the Rorschach in your ear hear? Did that sound trumpet out hope for you? Did it evoke the sounds of Almog John, whose mother stood right here on this bima and held me in her arms and cried, thinking of the fate of her son who was held hostage in Gaza by Hamas? Does it evoke the image of Noah Argamani, who was on the back of a motorcycle, but then miraculously, through special forces of the Israeli defense, snuck their way into Gaza and took Andrei Kozlov and Almog Meir John and Noah Argamani and others and grabbed them and brought them under fire into a helicopter and whisked them back to Israel. All of us saw the video of Noah reuniting with her father and seeing her mother before she died. I saw Almog Meir John's mother, who sat on this bima with me crying about her son's fate in Gaza. And then I saw very different flavored tears coming down her face as she embraced her son again. When you hear that sound, is that what you hear? Do you hear that sound of appreciation, of thankfulness to the IDF, to God, who reunites those people with Israel? Or perhaps in your Rorschach, in your other ear, you heard the sound of his parents who came from Russia to Israel? Or do you hear the weeping of the family of Armon Zamora, who was killed rescuing Noah Argamani, Andrei Kozlov, and Almog Meir John? He sacrificed his life for 4 precious souls to be reunited. Does that sound of the shofar champion the freedom of expression for you? Or does it champion the idea of chaos? What do you hear as we bless this shofar? Do you hear elected officials when we blast the shofar, sending carrier fleets to the Middle East to give protection to our most valued ally, Israel? Or when that shofar blasts, do you hear those same elected officials calling out to Israel saying, don't dare go into Rafah? What do you hear as the shofar is blasted? The real purpose of the Rorschach test is not only to see what our reflexive answers are, but to figure out why they are that way. Why do we see certain things? Why did some people hear the shofar and they heard the voice of Hok, like the voice of Almog Meir Jan and Noah Argamani? And why did others hear that exact same sound and they could only hear the shrieks of Hirsch Goldberg Poland or Carmel Gott? Why do some hear those sounds of optimism and support from our government, and why do others hear the same sound and hear it as chastisement and rebuke? Why is it that we hear and see the same things, and some of us respond with unbridled optimism, and some of us respond with pessimism that knows no barriers? If anything, the shofar is a siren for all of us to make us look inward. And only when we look at ourselves critically and honestly are we able as individuals and as a collective people to learn, to unpack, to discover, to grow, to mature, and then to flourish. Whatever you hear, whatever it is, dial into that sound and dial into the sound that others can hear as well as we blast the shofar for the third time.